Well, welcome everybody to our online program on recovering from addiction, brought to you by the Sunshine Coast Health Center up here in Powell River, BC. And we've been talking about this principle of being true to yourself and why it might be necessary for recovery. And one of the things that we've discovered is necessary to be true to the self is the idea of courage. And this is really well presented by this movie Barfly that we've talked a bit about on the online program. And the main character, Henry Chinaski, is on a mission to be true to himself, which in Henry's case consists of drinking a lot, sitting in a bar, getting into fights with the bartender, and going back to his place, listening to classical music, writing poetry, or writing stories, I guess mainly, but poetry as well. And it's, by the way, the movie is not intended to encourage you to drink a lot and become a barfly. It's used as a metaphor for Henry there and what is required to be true to yourself. Okay, so Henry has made this decision that he's going to be true to himself, which in this case means being a barfly. In order to keep up Henry tells us it takes a lot of courage because there's so much pressure from the outside to conform. And in the case of the Barfly story, this editor of a magazine discovers Henry, because it turns out he's a pretty good writer. And so she is encouraging him to clean up his act, to allow her to sort of help him become this famous writer. In which case, he would stop drinking, he could live into a nice house, he could become a famous writer, complete with all the money and all the benefits and perks that go along with that. But he knows that if he does that, he'll be, as he says, like a bird in a golden cage, but still a cage, even though the bars are made of gold. And so he gives that up. He gives up everything and ends up, by the end of the movie, back in the bar being a barfly. And there's a real lesson here that it does take a lot of courage to be yourself, to be true to yourself, because there are all these outside pressures coming at you. If you're true to yourself, you might actually have to stand up for yourself, so that could mean taking some pretty big risks, right? In our facility here, when the new fellas join group, they have to figure out that it's okay to speak what's on their mind, that they don't have any magical power that can ruin someone else's recovery, or that somehow whatever they're going to say, all of a sudden there's going to be a big fight. I mean, all of these of course are risks, but really, it's more about the person being true to himself while he's here. And this is why we encourage this so much. And it's not a matter of being right or wrong, good or bad, it's just looking inside yourself and actually be open and honest about what you're feeling or what you're thinking. But this, as I say, this puts you in this special position, and so we have these examples, for example, like Martin Luther King, and in fact, Dr. King was assassinated, right? And we've got people like Gandhi and Nelson Mandela who were imprisoned. There's a lot of risk attached to being true to yourself, right? And so there's a good lesson from Barfly that it will take courage to be able to stand up for yourself rather than just sit back and be passive and not take action even with something you passionately feel about. Anyway, another lesson from Barfly for you there. Anyway, we'll be back next time with another episode.